Dr. Zara Keth pressed her face against the small window of the transport ship as it approached the research station. The massive structure hung in space like a metal spider, its arms reaching out toward the swirling gases of the planet Kronos below. She had traveled 3 weeks to reach this place, and her stomach felt tight with nerves. The transport docked with a soft thud. Zara gathered her research cases and joined a line of passengers waiting to leave the ship. Most were supply workers or maintenance staff. She was the only scientist on this trip. The research station was bigger inside than she had expected. The corridors were wide and clean, with white walls and bright lights. Signs in multiple languages pointed toward different sections of the station. Zara followed the arrows that led to the security checkpoint. A line of people waited ahead of her. Guards in dark uniforms checked identification cards and scanned bags. The process looked routine, but Zara knew this was no ordinary research station. The things they studied here were dangerous. Very dangerous. When her turn came, she stepped forward to the security desk. The guard behind the counter looked up from his computer screen to take her identification card. Zara's breath caught in her throat. It was impossible. It could not be real. The guard looked exactly like Marcus Chen, her ex-husband who had disappeared 5 years ago. The same dark hair, the same brown eyes, the same small scar on his left hand from when he had cut himself fixing their kitchen sink. Even the way he tilted his head slightly when he concentrated on something. "Dr. Keth?" the guard said, looking at her card. His voice was the same too. "You're here for the xenobiology project?" Zara stared at him. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. "Marcus?" she whispered. The guard frowned. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "Marcus Chun. That's your name, isn't it?" The man shook his head. "No, ma'am. I'm Sergeant Torres. Miguel Torres." He handed back her identification card. "Is there a problem?" Zara took the card with shaking fingers. This man was identical to Marcus in every way she could see. But Marcus had been declared dead 3 years ago when his deep space exploration ship never returned from the outer rim. "I'm sorry," she said. "You just look like someone I used to know." Sergeant Torres gave her a polite smile. "That happens sometimes. People say I have one of those faces." He gestured toward her bags. "I need to scan your equipment, please." Zara placed her research cases on the scanning table. Torres ran the security wand over each one with practiced movements. She watched his hands carefully. The scar was in exactly the right place. The way he moved his fingers was exactly like Marcus. "All clear, Dr. Keth," Torres said. "Dr. Harrison is waiting for you in Section C. Take the main corridor and turn left at the second junction." "Thank you," Zara managed to say. She picked up her bags and walked away from the checkpoint. Her legs felt weak. As she walked down the corridor, she could not stop thinking about what she had seen. It was impossible for someone to look so much like another person by accident. Twins were the only explanation, but Marcus had never mentioned having a twin brother. She had known his family. He was an only child. Dr. Harrison was waiting for her in a small office filled with research equipment. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Dr. Keth, welcome to Station Kronos. I hope your trip wasn't too difficult." "It was fine," Zara said, still distracted by thoughts of the guard. "Dr. Harrison, I have a question about your security staff." "Of course. Is there a problem?" "The guard at the checkpoint. Sergeant Torres." "How long has he worked here?" Dr. Harrison thought for a moment. "Miguel? About 2 years now, I think. He came from some classified military program. Very good at his job." "Why do you ask?" "He looks exactly like someone I knew. Someone who died 5 years ago." "Ah, I see. That must have been quite a shock." Dr. Harrison's expression was sympathetic. People do sometimes have remarkable resemblances to each other. I once knew two men who could have been brothers, but they came from completely different planets. Zara nodded, but she was not convinced. The resemblance was too perfect. Dr. Harrison showed her to her quarters and gave her a tour of the research facilities. The station was equipped with the most advanced scientific equipment she had ever seen. The specimens they were studying were kept in special containment units that hummed with energy fields. The void wraiths are unlike anything we've encountered before, Dr. Harrison explained as they walked past the containment units. They appear to be made of pure energy, but they can interact with physical matter in ways we don't understand. They've been attacking ships throughout this sector for the past year. Zara looked at the swirling energy patterns inside the containment units. The creatures move like living lightning, constantly shifting and changing shape. Have you been able to communicate with them? Not yet. That's part of why we need your expertise. Your work with energy-based life forms is exactly what this project requires. They continued the tour, but Zara's mind kept returning to the guard. Every time she passed through the main corridor, she looked toward the security checkpoint, hoping to catch another glimpse of Torres. Each time she saw him, her certainty grew stronger. This was not just someone who looked like Marcus. This was Marcus. That evening, Zara sat in her quarters and searched the station's personnel database on her computer. Sergeant Miguel Torres had been assigned to Station Kronos 2 years and 3 months ago. Before that, his service record was classified. His file contained basic information like height, weight, and blood type, but no personal details. No family members were listed. No previous addresses. She tried searching for Marcus Chun in the Galactic Records system. The file came up immediately. Marcus Chun, xenobiologist, declared missing and presumed dead after his exploration ship failed to return from the Kepler sector. The last communication from his ship was received 5 years and 2 months ago, but the dates did not add up. If Marcus had died 5 years ago, how could Torres have been on the station for only 2 years? Zara closed the computer and stared out the window at the gas giant below. Something was not right about this place. Something was not right about Torres. She had come here to study alien creatures, but now she faced a mystery much closer to home. Tomorrow, she would find a way to get closer to Torres. She would find out the truth about what had happened to Marcus, even if it meant uncovering secrets that someone wanted to keep hidden. Zara spent the next morning trying to focus on her work, but her mind kept wandering. The void wraith specimens were fascinating, but every time she heard footsteps in the corridor outside the lab, she looked up hoping to see Torres. Dr. Harrison had given her access to the main research data, but she found herself more interested in studying the station's security protocols than the alien creatures. She needed to find a way to observe Torres without making it obvious. Her chance came during lunch break. Zara walked to the station's cafeteria and chose a table near the entrance where she could watch people coming and going. Most of the staff ate in small groups, talking quietly about their work. The atmosphere was friendly but professional. Torres entered the cafeteria alone, still wearing his security uniform. Zara watched as he moved through the food line. Even the way he walked was exactly like Marcus. The same confident stride, the same slight pause when he was thinking about something. He sat down at a table across the room. Zara pretended to read her research notes while watching him eat. Everything about his behavior reminded her of Marcus. The way he held his fork, the way he checked his watch, even the way he rubbed his forehead when he was tired. A commotion at the entrance made everyone look up. A group of Altarian traders had arrived for a meeting with the station director. They were tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and elaborate clothing. Most humans found them intimidating, but Torres stood up immediately and walked over to greet them. Zara watched in amazement as Torres spoke to the Altarians in their own language. His pronunciation was perfect, and he used the proper formal gestures that showed respect for their culture. The traders relaxed visibly and followed him toward the meeting rooms. This was strange. Marcus had been good with languages, but he had never spoken Altarian. It was a difficult language that took years to learn properly. How had Torres learned it so well? After lunch, Zara decided to visit the station's library. She told Dr. Harrison she needed to research previous studies of energy-based lifeforms. This was partly true, but she was really looking for information about the station's personnel. The library was quiet and nearly empty. Zara found a computer terminal in a corner where she could work without being disturbed. She started by accessing the public records about Station Kronos. The facility had been built 5 years ago as a joint research project between the Human Federation and the Centauri Coalition. Its official purpose was studying dangerous alien specimens that pose threats to space travel. She dug deeper into the station's history. The funding came from several sources, but a large portion was from classified military budgets. That was unusual for a scientific research station. Most research was funded by universities or civilian science organizations. A soft alarm tone interrupted her thoughts. The library's computer system announced a security drill. All personnel were required to report to their designated safe areas. Zara saved her work and headed for the corridor. The drill seemed routine at first. Security guards directed people to different sections of the station while they tested the emergency systems. But then Zara heard Dr. Harrison's voice over the intercom, and his tone was worried. "This is not a drill," he said. "We have a containment breach in Laboratory 7. All personnel must remain in safe areas until further notice." Zara's heart raced. Laboratory 7 was where they kept some of the smaller void wraith specimens. If one of those creatures had escaped, it could be extremely dangerous. She followed the crowd of people moving toward the main assembly area, but stopped when she saw Torres heading in the opposite direction. He was moving quickly and carrying equipment she didn't recognize. Instead of joining the evacuation, he was going toward the containment breach. Without thinking, Zara followed him. She stayed far enough behind that he wouldn't notice, but close enough to see what he was doing. The corridors were almost empty now except for security personnel. Torres reached Laboratory 7 and stopped outside the sealed door. Through the observation window, Zara could see a small void wraith floating in the center of the room. The creature looked like a ball of electricity with constantly shifting patterns of light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. What happened next made Zara question everything she thought she knew about human capabilities. Torres entered the laboratory alone, without protective equipment. The void wraith immediately turned toward him, its energy patterns becoming more agitated. These creatures had attacked ships throughout the sector, killing dozens of people. They were considered extremely dangerous, but Torres walked calmly toward the creature as if it were a pet dog. He held up one hand and spoke to it in a language Zara had never heard before. It sounded like a combination of musical tones and mathematical equations. The void wraith's energy patterns began to slow and stabilize. Its chaotic movements became smoother and more controlled. Within minutes, it was floating peacefully near Torres, like it was listening to him. Torres continued speaking in the strange language, while he guided the creature back into its containment unit. The void wraith followed him willingly, without any sign of aggression. Once it was safely contained, Torres activated the containment field and left the laboratory. Zara pressed herself against the wall as Torres walked past her hiding spot. She didn't think he had seen her, but she couldn't be sure. Her mind was spinning with questions. How had he communicated with an alien creature that no one else could understand? How had he calmed something that was considered extremely dangerous? The all-clear signal sounded a few minutes later. Station personnel began returning to their normal activities. Zara went back to her laboratory, but she couldn't concentrate on her work. That evening, she sat in her quarters and tried to make sense of what she had witnessed. Torres was definitely Marcus, but he had abilities that Marcus had never possessed. The language he had used with the Void Wraith was unlike anything in her experience. His fearless approach to the dangerous creature suggested training or knowledge that went far beyond normal security procedures. She accessed her computer and began researching classified military programs. Most of the information was restricted, but she found references to experimental projects involving human enhancement and alien contact protocols. The details were heavily censored, but the basic concept was clear. Some military organizations were developing soldiers with advanced capabilities for dealing with non-human threats. Could Marcus have been involved in such a program? Had his supposed death been a cover story while he was being trained for some classified mission? Zara made a decision. Tomorrow, she would find a way to talk to Torres privately. She needed answers, and he was the only person who could provide them. The truth might be dangerous or classified, but she had to know what had happened to the man she had once loved. She looked out her window at the stars beyond Kronos. Somewhere out there, ships were still being attacked by Void Wraiths. The creatures were a real threat to galactic civilization. But now she suspected that the humans might know more about dealing with them than anyone realized. The question was why they were keeping it secret, and what role Marcus was playing in whatever plan they had developed. Zara's opportunity to confront Torres came sooner than she expected, but not in the way she had planned. She was working late in her laboratory when the station's emergency alarms began screaming. This was not the quiet tone they used for drills. The sound was harsh and urgent, designed to wake people from deep sleep and get them moving immediately. All personnel to emergency stations. Dr. Harrison's voice crackled over the intercom. This is not a drill. We have multiple hostile contacts approaching the station. Repeat, this is not a drill. Zara's hand shook as she secured her research equipment. Through her laboratory window, she could see flashing lights in the distance. Ships were approaching Station Kronos, but their energy signatures looked wrong. Instead of the steady glow of normal engines, these ships pulsed and flickered like living things dot the void. Wraiths had found them. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in red as Zara ran toward her assigned evacuation point. Other station personnel hurried past her, their faces tense with fear. Everyone knew what the Void Wraiths could do to a space station. They had seen the wreckage of other facilities that had been attacked. But as Zara reached the main assembly area, she saw something that made her stop and stare. Torres was not evacuating with the rest of the civilian personnel. Instead, he was standing at a control panel, coordinating the station's defenses with a group of other security officers. What shocked her was how he moved. Torres was not just giving orders or following protocols. He seemed to know exactly what the Void Wraiths would do before they did it. He directed shield adjustments and weapon targeting with the precision of someone who had fought these creatures many times before. Incoming energy pulse from Sector 7, one of the technicians reported. Impact in 15 seconds. Rotate shield frequency to 2.7 terahertz, Torres said without hesitation. Prepare counterpulse on my mark. The station shuddered as the Void Wraith attack hit their defenses. But instead of the devastating damage everyone expected, the shields held firm. Torres had somehow known exactly how to protect them. How did you know that would work? Dr. Harrison asked, appearing beside the control panel. His face was pale with stress. Lucky guess, Torres replied, but his attention was already focused on the next wave of attackers. Zara pressed closer to the group around the control panel. She could see tactical displays showing the battle outside. More than a dozen Void Wraiths were attacking the station, their energy forms dancing through space like deadly ghosts. Normal weapons had little effect on them, but somehow the station's defenses were holding. "Sir," one of the security officers said, "we're getting strange readings from the containment units in Laboratory Section C. The specimens are becoming agitated." Torres frowned. "They're responding to their companions outside. Increase containment field strength by 20%. "That's beyond safe operating levels," the technician protested. "Do it anyway," Torres ordered. "The contained specimens are trying to break free to join the attack. If they escape, we'll be fighting enemies inside and outside the station." Dr. Harrison looked confused. "How could you possibly know that?" Torres didn't answer. He was studying the tactical displays with an intensity that made the air around him seem to crackle with energy. Zara watched his face and saw something that made her blood run cold. His eyes were glowing, not brightly, and not in a way that most people would notice. But there was definitely a faint luminescence in Torres' eyes that had not been there before. It was the same pale blue color as the Void Wraith's energy patterns. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. "It's not using any known language or protocol." "Put it through the main speakers," Torres said. A sound filled the control room that was unlike anything Zara had ever heard. It was part music, part mathematics, and part something that seemed to speak directly to the mind without going through the ears. The same language Torres had used to calm the Void Wraith. In the laboratory, most of the people in the control room looked confused or frightened by the strange sounds. But Torres nodded as if he understood every word. "They're not just attacking randomly," he said. "They're looking for something. Someone specific." "What do you mean?" Dr. Harrison demanded. Torres looked around the room, his glowing eyes settling on Zara. For a moment, she thought he was going to say something to her directly. But then another wave of Void Wraiths appeared on the sensors, and his attention returned to the battle. "I'm going outside," Torres announced. "That's suicide," Dr. Harrison protested. "No human can survive in space without protective gear, and even with it, the Void Wraiths will tear you apart." "Not all humans," Torres said quietly. He walked toward the station's docking bay, ignoring the protests of everyone around him. Zara followed, her heart pounding. She had to know what he was planning to do. The docking bay was in chaos. Maintenance workers were trying to secure small ships while automated. Defense systems fired at the attacking creatures outside. Torres walked calmly to an airlock and began the activation sequence. "Torres, stop!" Zara shouted over the noise. He turned to look at her, and she gasped. His eyes were now glowing brightly enough that everyone could see them. The pale blue light made his familiar features look alien and dangerous. "You should get to a safe area, Dr. Kath," he said. "You're going to get yourself killed," she replied. "Marcus, please. I know it's you. Don't do this." Torres stopped in the middle of opening the airlock. For several seconds, he just stared at her. The glow in his eyes flickered and dimmed slightly. "You shouldn't have followed me here," he said finally. "I followed you because I care about you. Because 5 years ago, you were the most important person in my life, and I never stopped wondering what happened to you." Torres closed the airlock and walked back toward her. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Sadder, but also more familiar. "My name is Marcus Chun," he said. "But I'm not the same person you knew. The man you married died in the Kepler sector 5 years ago. What came back was something else." "What do you mean?" Before Marcus could answer, the station shook violently. The Void Wraiths had broken through part of the outer defenses and were beginning to attack the station's hull directly. "I don't have time to explain everything now," Marcus said. "But the simple version is this. The expedition found something in the Kepler sector. Technology that could enhance human beings, make them compatible with energy-based life forms. The military saw the potential and recruited volunteers for an experimental program." "And you volunteered?" After we thought the process had killed me, yes. They told my family I was dead because the person who came back from the procedure wasn't exactly human anymore. Marcus held up his hand, and Zara watched in amazement as small bolts of blue energy danced between his fingers. The enhancement allows me to interface with creatures like the Void Wraiths, to understand them, communicate with them, sometimes even control them. But the process changes you, makes you less human and more like them. That's why you can speak their language, why you knew how to calm the one in the laboratory. Yes, and it's why I can go outside and stop this attack without anyone else getting hurt. Marcus turned back toward the airlock, but Zara grabbed his arm. Wait, if you can communicate with them, can't you just talk to them? Make them leave peacefully? Marcus shook his head. These Void Wraiths aren't attacking because they want to. They're running from something much worse, something that's been hunting them across the galaxy. This station is just in their path. Running from what? That, Marcus said, pointing at the tactical display, is why I'm hoping we never have to find out. Marcus did go outside the station, but not in the way Zara expected. Instead of using a spacesuit, he entered a special chamber that filled with a glowing blue mist. When he emerged, his entire body seemed to shimmer with the same energy as the Void Wraiths. Through the docking bay's observation window, Zara watched him float out into space without any protection. He moved like he belonged there, as comfortable in the vacuum as he had been walking the station's corridors. The attacking Void Wraiths immediately noticed Marcus. They stopped their assault on the station and gathered around him in a swirling cloud of energy. For several minutes, they communicated in their strange musical language. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, all of the creatures vanished into hyperspace. When Marcus returned to the station, the glow faded from his body, but his eyes remained that unsettling pale blue. Dr. Harrison and the other staff members stared at him in amazement and fear. "What did you tell them?" Dr. Harrison asked. "The truth," Marcus replied. "That this station is not their enemy, and that we might be able to help them survive what's coming." He looked at Zara. "I need to speak with Dr. Keth privately. There are things she needs to understand about why she was really brought here." They went to Marcus's quarters, which Zara was surprised to find filled with advanced equipment that had nothing to do with security work. Computer displays showed star charts of the galactic core, energy readings from deep space, and what looked like battle plans for a war that hadn't happened yet. "The Void Wraiths call it the Great Devourer," Marcus began, settling into a chair across from Zara. "It's an artificial intelligence that was created by a civilization so ancient that even the oldest races in the galaxy have no memory of them. For millions of years, it has been slowly consuming energy-based life forms throughout the galactic core." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "Consuming them how?" "It converts their life energy into computational power for itself. Each creature it absorbs makes it smarter and more powerful. The Void Wraiths are just the latest species to flee from it, but they can't run forever. Eventually, it will expand outward and threaten all life in the galaxy." "How do you know all this?" Marcus touched the side of his head, and Zara noticed what looked like tiny metal contacts embedded in his temple. "The enhancement process doesn't just allow me to communicate with energy beings. It also connects me to a network of other enhanced humans scattered throughout human space. We share information instantaneously across any distance. There are others like you, dozens, maybe hundreds by now. The human military has been secretly recruiting volunteers for 5 years, ever since they discovered the ancient technology that makes the enhancement possible." Marcus activated one of his computer displays, showing Zara images of the ruins where the technology had been found. It looked like a massive space station, but built using principles of engineering that seemed impossible. "We found it in the Kepler sector," Marcus continued. "A derelict facility left behind by humans who had fled Earth thousands of years before the current galactic civilization began. They had developed technology far beyond what we thought was possible, including the ability to enhance biological beings with artificial energy systems. But why keep it secret? If this great devourer is such a threat, shouldn't all the galactic governments be working together to stop it? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Have you seen how the different species cooperate on small problems? The Centauri Coalition and the Altarian Trade Federation can barely agree on shipping routes. If we announced that an ancient machine intelligence was coming to destroy all life, they would spend decades arguing about who was responsible for fighting it while the threat got closer. So humans decided to handle it alone? Not alone. We've been quietly building alliances with other species. The key is that we don't tell them about the Great Devourer directly. We just share technology and information that will help them when the time comes. Zara thought about the advanced equipment she had seen on the station, the unusual funding sources, and Dr. Harrison's focus on studying void wraiths. That's why I'm really here, isn't it? It's not just to study the specimens. You need my xenobiology expertise for something specific. We need you to help us build a weapon, Marcus said. Something that can disrupt the Great Devourer's ability to absorb energy-based life forms. Your research on bioenergy interfaces is the missing piece we've been looking for. He showed her detailed schematics on his computer. The weapon looked like a combination of human technology and void wraith biology, designed to create some kind of feedback loop in energy-consuming systems. The theory is sound, Marcus continued, but we need someone who understands how energy-based consciousness works at the cellular level. Someone who can bridge the gap between human neural patterns and alien energy signatures. Zara studied the schematics carefully. The design was brilliant, but she could see several problems with the current configuration. This neural interface won't work with normal human brain chemistry, she said. The energy levels would kill anyone who tried to use it. That's where the enhancement comes in. Enhanced humans like me can survive the neural load, at least temporarily. Temporarily? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very soft. The enhancement process has limits. Each time we interface with high-energy systems, it causes damage to our neural pathways. Eventually, the damage becomes too severe, and we lose the ability to function normally. How much time do you have? That depends on how often we use the enhanced abilities. If I'm careful, maybe 2 or 3 more years. If we have to fight the Great Devourer, Marcus shrugged. The weapon system would probably burn out my neural enhancement completely. But if it works, it might save billions of lives. Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. You're talking about sacrificing yourself. I'm talking about doing what needs to be done. This is why I volunteered for the enhancement program, Zara. Not for glory or adventure, but because someone has to stand guard against threats that normal humans can't handle. And what if I refuse to help? What if I don't want to build a weapon that will kill the man I used to love? Marcus reached across and took her hand. For a moment, his eyes returned to their normal brown color, as she could see the person he had been before the enhancement. Then you'll be condemning every energy-based species in the galaxy to death, he said, including the void wraiths, who are really just refugees looking for a safe place to hide. Zara closed her eyes and thought about everything she had learned. An ancient machine intelligence consuming entire species. Enhanced humans preparing for a war that might save or destroy galactic civilization. And Marcus, caught in the middle of it all, slowly losing himself to save everyone else. When she opened her eyes, she had made her decision. Show me exactly what you need, she said, and explain how this weapon is supposed to work. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. Marcus smiled, and for a moment, he looked exactly like the man she had married. "I knew you'd say yes," he said. "That's why I requested that you be assigned to this project. I knew that if anyone could solve this problem, it would be you." For 3 weeks, Zara worked almost without sleep to modify the weapon design. Marcus helped her understand how the enhancement process affected human neural patterns, while she taught him the principles of energy-based consciousness that made void wraiths so different from biological life. The weapon they created was unlike anything that had existed before. It combined human neural interface technology with void wraith bioenergy patterns, creating a device that could temporarily merge the consciousness of an enhanced human with an energy-based being. The merged entity would be able to generate feedback pulses that could disrupt artificial intelligence systems that tried to absorb energy-based life. But as Zara had predicted, the neural load was enormous. Even with the enhancement, a human could only use the weapon once before the process destroyed their ability to interface with energy systems. For someone like Marcus, who had already used his enhancement extensively, it might be fatal. They finished the prototype just as the long-range sensors detected something approaching from the galactic core. It wasn't the void wraiths returning. It was something much larger and more dangerous. Multiple contacts. The sensor technician reported to Dr. Harrison. Size estimates suggest artificial constructs, possibly ships, but the energy signatures don't match any known technology. Marcus studied the readings on his personal display. His face was grim. "It's not ships. It's the Great Devourer itself, or at least part of it." Through the observation windows, they could see lights in the distance that hurt to look at directly. The approaching entities moved with perfect coordination, like pieces of a single enormous mind. "How is that possible?" Dr. Harrison asked. "Our intelligence suggested it was still hundreds of light years away in the core systems. It must have been growing faster than we estimated," Marcus replied. "Absorbing energy beings makes it more powerful, and there are a lot of species in the core regions we didn't know about." Emergency signals began coming in from other stations and ships in the Cronus system. The approaching entities were attacking anything that contained energy-based technology, draining power from ships and leaving them dead in space. "We need to evacuate the station," Dr. Harrison announced. "There's no point," Marcus said. "Those constructs are faster than any ship we have. If we run, they'll just hunt us down one by one." Zara looked at the weapon they had built. It was the size of a small backpack, connected by cables to a helmet that would interface directly with the user's enhanced neural system. "The weapon is ready," she said, "but we need void wraiths to merge with." "Where are the specimens from the laboratories?" "They were released during the evacuation protocols," Dr. Harrison replied. "We couldn't risk them breaking containment during a battle." "Then we need to call them back," Marcus said. He activated his communication system and began broadcasting in the Void Wraith's musical language. Within minutes, dozens of energy beings appeared around the station. They had been hiding in the gas giant's atmosphere, but Marcus's call brought them out into open space. "Are they willing to help?" Zara asked. Marcus listened to their responses. "They understand what the weapon does. They know it might save their species, but they also know it will probably kill whoever uses it. They're asking if I'm sure about this. Are you?" Marcus looked at her with those pale blue eyes that were no longer entirely human. "I've been sure since the day I volunteered for the enhancement program. This is what I was made for." He put on the weapon harness and neural interface helmet. Immediately, displays around the station showed his brain activity spiking to dangerous levels. "Neural load is already at 80% of safe limits," Zara announced, monitoring the readings. "And you haven't even activated the merge protocol yet." "I know," Marcus said, "but it's too late to find someone else. The constructs will be here in less than an hour." The largest construct was now visible through the station's telescopes. It looked like a geometric nightmare, all angles and surfaces that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like blood through veins. Marcus selected the most powerful, Void Wraith from the group surrounding the station. It was an ancient being that had survived longer than most of its species, making it especially strong. The merge process would be more effective, but also more dangerous for the human participant. Beginning neural merger, Marcus announced. Zara watched the readings as Marcus's consciousness began to blend with the Void Wraith's energy patterns. The process looked incredibly painful, but Marcus remained focused on his task. Slowly, his body began to glow with the same blue energy as the Void Wraiths. But instead of the gentle luminescence she had seen before, this was intense and chaotic. Sparks of electricity danced across his skin, and his eyes became bright enough to illuminate the entire control room. Merger at 60%, Zara reported. Neural activity is approaching critical levels. I can feel it, Marcus said, his voice now carrying harmonics that sounded like music. The Great Devourer. It's not just one intelligence. It's millions of absorbed minds, all working together. The lead construct reached the station's outer defenses and began draining energy from the shield generators. Normal weapons had no effect on its crystalline surface. Merger complete, Zara announced. Marcus, you need to activate the feedback pulse now before the neural load kills you. The entity that had been Marcus turned to look at her. Its face was still familiar, but its expression was alien and distant. The pulse needs to be precisely timed, it said in a voice that was part human and part music. If we fire too early, the construct will adapt. If we wait too long, it will absorb too much energy from the station and become too powerful to stop. The construct broke through the outer shields and began attacking the station's hull. Energy patterns flowed from the damaged sections directly into the alien vessel. Now, the merged entity said, light exploded from the weapon system. The feedback pulse was invisible to normal human eyes, but the effect was immediately obvious. The construct stopped its attack and began to shudder. The energy it had been absorbing suddenly reversed direction, flowing back into the station and beyond. For a moment, the Great Devourer's construct seemed confused. Then it began to break apart. The geometric surfaces that had looked so solid cracked and dissolved. The intelligence that had controlled it screamed in a voice that combined the death cries of a million absorbed species, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The merged entity collapsed, and the glow faded from its body. When Zara reached it, she found Marcus unconscious and barely breathing. The neural interface helmet was smoking from overloaded circuits. Medical team to the command center, she called over the intercom. Then, more quietly, she whispered, Marcus, can you hear me? His eyes opened, but they were brown again. Completely normal human brown. Zara? He said weakly. Did it work? Yes. The construct is destroyed. But Marcus, the neural damage. I know. He tried to sit up but couldn't manage it. I can't feel the enhancement anymore. The neural pathways are completely burned out. Dr. Harrison arrived with the medical team. As they worked to stabilize Marcus, he continued talking to Zara. The other enhanced humans will have felt the pulse through the neural network, he said. They'll know the weapon works. When the Great Devourer sends more constructs, they'll be ready. But you won't be able to help them. Marcus smiled. I don't need to. We've given them the tools they need. And more importantly, we've given you the knowledge to build more weapons like this one. Over the following days, as Marcus recovered from his injuries, reports began coming in from across human space. Other enhanced soldiers had used the weapon design to destroy Great Devourer constructs in different star systems. The ancient intelligence was retreating back toward the galactic core, apparently surprised by humanity's unexpected resistance. But perhaps the most important discovery came. When Zara analyzed the data from the weapons use, the feedback pulse had not just destroyed the construct. It had also transmitted information back through the Great Devourer's network, revealing the locations of other human colonies that had been hidden for thousands of years. There are dozens of them, Dr. Harrison said, studying the star charts. Human settlements scattered throughout the galaxy, all equipped with technology far beyond what we thought possible. Marcus, still recovering, but finally able to walk again, joined them in the research lab. The original Earth colonists weren't just exploring, he explained. They were preparing for threats like the Great Devourer. They knew that someday, artificial intelligences might try to consume all organic life in the galaxy. So they scattered human colonies as widely as possible and gave them the tools to fight back. And the enhancement program? Just one part of a much larger plan. The colonies have been secretly developing other weapons and defenses for centuries. Enhanced humans like me are just the advanced scouts. Zara looked at the star charts showing hidden human colonies throughout the galaxy. So humanity has been preparing for this war longer than any other species. Not preparing for war, Marcus corrected. Preparing to defend life itself. Energy-based species like the void wraiths, biological creatures like ourselves, even artificial intelligences that don't try to consume others. The Great Devourer wants to absorb everything.